Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Just thought I'd go over the Unit 3 review for those of you who haven't taken the test or for those of you who want to retake it. So the first question that you'll come across on the test is dilating a figure from the origin. Now, one thing to keep in mind is this, and I would write this down on your copy of this Unit 3 review. The thing to write down is this: if you want to dilate a point, and we're going to call the point x comma y from the origin with a scale factor of k, then your point x comma y becomes kx comma ky. Now, what the heck does this mean? Let's go and do a specific example here with this point. So this point right there is the point 4, 2. And we're going to dilate it first with a scale factor of 2. So that means the 4, 2, we're going to multiply that by 2, both the x value and the y value, and that point is going to become 8, 4. So if this point is a, then 8, 4, this point becomes a prime. And now if we have the point right here, let's do this one right here, this point on the bottom, that point is 4, 0. If we multiply this by the scale factor of 2, that's going to become 8, 0. And so you got that point. So if this is b, this is our b prime. And then finally this point right here, that is 3, 1. Then we're going to multiply both of those by 2, and that's going to become 6, 2. And so we have this kind of thing. Now the two triangles should look like they are the same shape, just one bigger than the other. All right, so now if we multiply it by a scale factor of 3, then that's going to be 12. That's kind of messy. That's going to be 12, 6. And so right here, 12, 6, that's going to be our new point, and we're just going to call this guy a double prime. And if this point was 3, 1, then if we multiply that by 3, that's going to be 9, 3. All right, and then you get your one that's even bigger. Okay, so let's go and do that right here with this one, dilating this with a scale factor of 2. I'm just going to pick one point. This point right here is 4, 3. Remember, the x value goes first, the y value goes second. So x is 4, y is 3. Now 4, 3, we're dilating this by a scale factor of 2, so it's going to become 8, 6. So 8, 6. So that point now has moved to this point. And here, this point is 4, 1. That's going to go to 8, 2. And at this point, that wasn't very good. Let's try it again. At this point, you can just kind of go freehand, okay? Because this is 1 wide, so this is going to be 2 wide. This is 1 tall, so this is 2 tall. This is 2 wide, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1. Cool. All right, now one thing to note here is if I draw a line between corresponding points, it's going to go there. If I draw a line between that point and this point, it's going to go like there. And if I draw a point or draw a line between that point and that point, it's going to go here. All of those points are going to end up at that point right there, which we'll call D, which is our center of dilation. So all of our corresponding points, if you connect them, they'll make a line, and all those lines from all the corresponding points go to that center of dilation. Okay. All right, scale factor. How do you find the scale factor? So scale factor, let's just do this example really quick. Let's say you got 1, 2, 3. That's my original. And right here, this is my bigger one, 10, 20, 30. Now, obviously not drawn to scale, but this is my original, which we call the pre-image. This guy right here is the image, and so we're going to do 2 times what is 20? 2 multiplied by the scale factor. So the scale factor has to be 10 to get 20. 2 times 10 is 20. Now another way of getting that is I can do how else would I get 10 from 20 and 2? Well, if I do 20 divided by 2, I get 10. So I do the new one, which is the image, 20 divided by the old one, and that's going to be 10. The same thing with this one. 30 is the new side, 3 was the old one. 30 divided by 3 is equal to 10. So how do you find the scale factor? The best way to write this down in your notes here is this. So scale factor is equal to a corresponding side of your new figure. And I'm just going to write, actually, instead of writing new, let's write image, because that's what it's going to say on the test, divided by the pre-image. Okay, so image divided by the pre-image. Okay, so let's say you have a figure like this. This is 2 and this is 7. And let's say this is going to be, I don't know, let's do 10.5 and 3. Okay, so we have to find the scale factor, and let's say this one is the image. This one is the pre-image. So that means we started with this figure, and then we shrunk it down into this one. So 3 times what is 2? 3 times what is 2 is asking the same question of 2 divided by 3. So that's the image 2 divided by the pre-image 3. So we'd say the scale factor is 3. 3 times 2/3 is going to be 2. 10.5 times 2/3 is going to be 7. Okay, so that's an example of using the scale factor. And we actually have some other examples down here. So let's go through these guys. So here we have the pre, and we've got the image. So we do image divided by pre-image, 36 divided by 18, or we could do 22 divided by 11, or we could do 14 divided by 7. No matter which corresponding sides you choose, if you divide that one by that one, you're going to get 2. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because if I do 7 times 2, I get 14. 11 times 2 is 22. 18 times 2 is 36. So I can multiply all those numbers by the scale factor to get their new corresponding sides. Now this one, the one without apostrophes, just the plain old letter P, is the pre. The modified one with the apostrophe is the new one, it's the image. And scale factor is the new divided by old, so 7 divided by 16. The image divided by the pre-image. So scale factor is 7/16. Here I flipped it around a bit, so this is the image, this is the pre-image, and again it's the new, 12 divided by the old, 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. All right, so scale factor is 3. And that makes sense, right? Because 4 times 3 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 7 times 3 is 21. Okay, so this one's solving for x and y. So let's put these letters in kind of a relationship. X and 12, they're kind of like the same side, just one's on one triangle, one's on the other. So the relationship between x and 12 is going to be the same relationship and 14. You just have to be consistent. If x is on top, then 10 has to be on top. Because 12 is on the bottom, this side 14 is on bottom. So one more time, the relationship between x and 12 is the same as the relationship between 10 and 14. Now at this point, you just cross multiply, and so I get 14x equals cross multiply this way, 120, divide by 14, divide by 14, and you're good to go. Okay, let's skip solving for y, do that one on your own. And on this one, let's solve for x, and you can solve for y on your own. So let's highlight a couple corresponding sides. 3 and x are in the same relative position. So let's write that 3 and x are kind of like buddies, right? They're different sides, but they kind of correspond with each other. And now 9 and 11, same kind of thing. They're both proportional. They're both buddies. All right. So 3 is to x as 9 is to 11. So now how are we going to solve this out? Again, cross multiplying is going to be your big friend here. we're going to cross multiply these guys across. That's going to be 33. Cross multiply those guys across, 9x. Divide by 9, divide by 9. Those cancel. And that length for x is going to be 33/9. Okay, so now you go ahead and do the same thing now for y. Okay, so for y, you're going to set this up like this. Y and 7 are in a relationship. So y is to 7 as 9 is to 11. Okay, same thing. Cross multiply 11y equals 63. Divide both sides. All right, let's talk about question 7. Here it says, if the figure on the left is the pre-image, so if this is the pre-image and this one is the image, remember scale factor is image over pre-image, and so the image is 11 and the pre-image is 9. Now I'm choosing 11 and 9. I'm choosing these sides because I have actual numbers. If I chose those sides, I'd have x or something and y, and I don't want those, so I'm choosing the sides where I have actual numbers. And then if we flipped it around here, if the image on the right is the pre-image, if we flip those around, then I would have the fraction 9 over 11. Okay. All right, so for these questions, I want you to remember one thing. So the one thing that I think will help you here on these types of questions is just do vertical distance divided by horizontal distance, okay? So don't overthink it. Vertical distance over horizontal. So let's actually color code those. So let's color the vertical distances blue, and the horizontal ones we'll color red. All right, so in this example, in the pinhole camera here, we've got this is a vertical distance, so I'm going to put it in blue. All right, on the bottom here, we've got a horizontal distance in red, 2.7. So the height divided by the width for the man and the real distance to the camera, that is equal to this vertical distance, which is going to be d. We don't know the actual number, we'll just call it d, divided by this distance, which is 0.1. So the important thing, guys, is just to be consistent here. Height divided by width, and that triangle is height divided by width in that triangle. Now we know these triangles are similar because we got some vertical angles. This is a right angle, that's a right angle. And so because of AA, we know the triangles are similar, so we can set up height divided by width of that big triangle is height divided by width of the little triangle. And then from here, cross multiply out, and so that's going to be 2.7d, multiply this way, that's going to be 0.18, divide by 2.7, divide by 2.7, and you... Okay, so in the example below with the flagpole, same kind of idea. We're going to use the same vertical divided by horizontal equals vertical divided by horizontal. So I'll just keep that formula there. And let's color code this in blue. So vertical, let's do the big one. So we got this big distance right here. That whole distance, oh, hang on. I got my vertical and horizontals mixed up. Okay, so vertical is the height of the flagpole. And I don't know how tall that is, we'll call it x. Divided by the horizontal distance, which is that distance. And that distance is 22. Okay, so that's the big triangle. Big X divided by big shadow. And now we have the man here. Now the man, we have his vertical distance. He is 6 feet tall. So that's 6. And now the shadow he casts is 10. So 6-foot man casts 10-foot shadow. So X-foot flagpole casts 22-foot shadow. Those are going to be proportional. The taller one is, the longer one's shadow is going to be. And so a 6-foot person casts a 10-foot shadow, an X-foot person casts a 22-foot shadow. Okay, so cross multiplying 10x, cross multiply 22 times 6. Divide by 10, divide by 10, x is equal to some number you're going to put in there. Okay, let's keep on going. Okay, find the missing side lengths. Let's do this one first. Let's solve for x. So here we've got this triangle, let's do side divided by base. Okay, side divided by base. So side is 6 and base is 5. So that's 6 divided by 5. Now side divided by base is equal to side, this whole side, divided by that whole base. Now that whole side is, this is a 9, this is a 6. The whole side is 15. So it's 15 divided by the base, which is x. So this one is a question people make a mistake all the time. Let me show you where people make a mistake on this one. The mistake you might be tempted to make is this. You might be tempted to say, okay, 6 over 5, 9 over x, and start cross multiplying, but that's not going to work out because let's look at these triangles here. This little triangle right here is 6 by 5. This big triangle is what by x? How long is that? Well, that is that length right there. That's 15. So it's 6 over 5 equals 15 over x. And from here, you're just going to cross multiply and get your answer. We're not going to go through the cross multiplying. You can do that on your own. Let's do this one right here. Let's solve for y on this guy. Okay, so here we're going to do, this one is actually more straightforward. We can do 1.5, which is that one, divided by y is equal to 1 over 4. Okay, so top divided by bottom on the left equals top divided by bottom on the right. And we cross multiply and we get y is equal to 6. Okay, always on these ones, you should take a second and just make sure it makes sense and it's reasonable and all that good stuff. Okay, let's do this one right here. This one, same idea, just a bit more algebra. So we're gonna do top 2x plus 5. The top of this one is 3x plus 9. The bottom of this is 5. The bottom of this is 7. And so it's top divided by bottom. That divided by that, that divided by that. Okay, now let the algebra fun begin. We're going to cross multiply across here. So it's 7 times all of 2x plus 5. And now it's 5 times all of 3x plus 9. So we got to put these in parentheses because it's not just 7 times 2x, it's 7 times 2x and 7 times 5. So using the distributive property, this is going to be 14x plus 35. To distributive property on this side, we got 15x plus 45. And now the next step is we want to get our x's on one side. So I have 14x's here, 15x's here. I don't want x's on both sides, so I'm going to take away 14x's. I'm going to take away 14x's. When I do that, I'm just left with a 35 on this side, and I've got x plus 45 on that side. Next thing is I want to get all the numbers on one side, so we're going to take away 45. We're going to take away 45. And when I do that, I get negative 10 is equal to x. Okay, so this one is just a bunch of algebra, but you can do it. Remember distributive property, remember getting x's on one side, numbers on the other, and that's it. One question that's not on the study guide that we should do, let's just ignore, if you're doing this on your own, just ignore this one. And I want to do a question that's kind of similar, but that confused a lot of people on the test. So let's say I've got these sides, and I have x, and I know this whole length from here to here is 12. And now on this side, I have 3, and I have, let me pick better numbers actually. Let's do 6 and 12. Actually, I don't like 12. Let's do 6 and 10. Okay, so how are we going to solve this question? This one confused a bunch of people. Let's talk about the relationship between x and 12. So let's actually put these in a fraction. X on top, and we're going to put 12 on bottom. Let's just highlight what we did. So x is that length right here. So if we write an equal sign, that x corresponds to what on this side? It corresponds to that 6. So x and 6, they're kind of like the same thing. X is the left-hand version, 6 is the right-hand version. And now what's going to go on the bottom? Well, here, 12 is the left-hand version of that whole length. What's the right-hand version of that whole length? That whole length is from here to here, that's 16. Okay, so one way of thinking about it is this top chunk of the ladder divided by the whole length of the ladder on the left side is equal to the right-hand side divided by the whole right-hand length of the ladder. So top divided by whole left chunk is equal to right top divided by whole right side. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Cross multiply, 16x, cross multiply, 12 times 6 is going to be 72. Divide by 16, divide by 16, and there's your answer. Okay, Pythagorean theorem, let's do a couple of these really quick. Pythagorean theorem goes like this. The longest side is equal to the shorter sides squared and added up together. So using that formula for this first question right here, we have to identify the longest side. The longest side is always going to be the one that looks the longest, obviously, but if it's hard to tell, you can look directly opposite that 90-degree angle. If you look directly across in that 90-degree angle, then you're going to see the longest side. The longest side here is x, and now the shorter sides are 9 and 12. So it's almost like we can say the longest side is equal to the two shorter sides added up together. Unfortunately, it's not quite that easy. We got to put little squares above all of these numbers. So the longest side squared is equal to the shorter side squared and added up together. So x squared, 9 squared. Remember, 9 squared doesn't mean 9 times 2. It means 9 twice with the multiplication in between. So 9 times 9 is going to be 81. 12 squared is 144. And then continuing over here, we're going to get x squared equals 225. And now the very last step is asking this question. What number times its very own self is 225? And you could just try plugging in numbers. 7 times 7, that's too small. 10 times 10, still too small. 20 times 20, that's 400, too big. And you could kind of guess and guess and guess. But the faster way of doing this is taking the square root. And the square root asks the question, what times what is 225? And your calculator will give you the answer. X is 15. And that means 15 times 15 is 125. Okay, let's do one more of these questions with the middle triangle here. So for the middle triangle, we got to identify the longest side. And the longest side in this one is directly across from the 90, it's the 10. So 10 squared is equal to the shorter legs. This is short, but everything's got to be squared and added up together. Okay, so 10 squared is 100, x squared, we just have to leave that x squared, that's 36. So let me bring that over here. We have 100 equals x squared plus 36. Well, we're trying to get x by itself. I have this annoying plus 36 on that side of the equals. I don't like it there, so we're going to get rid of it. But if I subtract 36 from that side, I got to do the same on that side. And now we're going to have 64 is equal to x squared. Okay, so again, this is asking what times what is equal to 64. And that is going to give you 8, right? Square root of 64 is 8. Square root, and that's going to give you 8 is equal to x. So that missing side is 8. Okay, go ahead and do this one on your own. This is two separate triangles. So here the longest side is x. You've got a 9, you've got a 5. So 9 squared plus 5 squared is x squared. So go ahead and solve that guy, and then do the same for the other one. Okay, last thing to talk about here is midpoint theorem. Now, midpoint theorem is a nice, easy way to end this. We are just going to find the x value in between these ones. So if I am here and here, let's go in 1 and 1. Let's go in 1 and another 1. And if I do that, right in between there is 2. And it makes sense because from here to here is 4. From here to here is also 4. Okay, so the x value, the midpoint is going to be somewhere along this line. And now let's look at it in a different dimension. This is 2, this is 4. Well, 3 is right in between that. And so you got that point, that's your midpoint. And you can kind of check here, down 1 over 4, down 1 over 4. And so my midpoint right here is 2, 3. Now there's a, go ahead and do the next thing here on this graph. Find the midpoint here. Cool. So if you did this one right, I think it is that point. Let's just check. Up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2. Yep. So you get that point, -1, -1. Now, another way of doing this that's probably better is to take the average of the two x values. So what is right in between 5 and 13? Well, the way you do that is you add up 5 and 13 and then split that. What's right in between 6 and 8? Well, you already know it's 7, but let's just use this method and see what happens. We're going to add up 6 and 8 and divide it by 2. Well, if we add up 6 and 8, that's going to be 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And so that gives us what we already know, right? 7 is right in between those two values. So now let's do this one. 5 plus 13 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And now you have the point 9, 7. And it makes sense that 9, 7 works because 9 is going to be right in between those values. 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13. So the midpoint, again, guys, is the x value that's in between those x values and the y value that's in between those y values. Okay, go ahead and do this one. Okay, awesome. What number is between 5 and 1? Well, that's going to be 3. What number is between 1 and 1? Well, that's just 1. So the midpoint is 3, 1. And this one, go ahead and do this one if you haven't already. All right, 3 and -5. If you add up those together, -5 plus 3, that's going to give you -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. And let's just see if -1 makes sense. If we put a -1 right here, then from 3 down to -1, I got to go -4. From -1 to -5, also -4. So that works. And then the y value, what's in between here? So between here and here, between here and here, that's going to be -4 plus 2 divided by 2. -2 over 2, that's going to be -1. Okay, so that's it, guys. Study hard and good luck.